Testing, testing, testing. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Testing. Let me pull it up. Testing, testing, testing. You can hear me now. Weird. Why did that work? Testing, testing, testing. Oh, yep, you do hear it. Why? Why? Hold on, I gotta fix the audio. Something's up. Why are you hearing me now, but not before? Was my stream outputting a specific audio channel? I don't see any reason why it should be. But it appears maybe. I'm gonna try and troubleshoot that really quick. Alright, 1 second. Test 2. Test 2. Okay, so then test 3. Test 2. Okay, so then test 3. So what if I do this? Test 2. Okay, so then test 3. So what if I do this? Test 2. Okay, so then test 3. So what if I do this? All right. Well, that's awful. Huh, how annoying. Okay, I think I figured it out, so I'll bring the music back. And then I will reduce my volume of the speakers so that you should still hear the music. But I won't really hear the music, which is a bummer, because I like hearing the music too. But now it won't echo through the microphone. And that should be working. You should hear me, and you should hear my music in the background. Microphone should be working. Unfortunately, I've been having some issue with my audio today, so I had to push the meeting 15 minutes back. You're also probably hearing my air conditioner. Usually that gets processed out. Normally what happens, in an explanation that'll interest nobody, my microphone typically goes into computer number 1, which is where I do all my creative work and where I usually take meetings. But then all that gets pushed into computer number 2, which is where this live stream is sort of happening. And on that second computer, the audio gets processed and that it gets filtered so that you don't hear things like air conditioning or music coming through the speakers. I use NVIDIA Broadcast to do that, but for some reason my NVIDIA Broadcast is not turning on. It's like it won't launch. I keep trying to turn it on and it just keeps saying, app initialization failed, unable to register virtual audio device. And no matter what I do, I've reinstalled the drivers, I've restarted the computer, I've reinstalled the software, doing updates. Can't get it to, I can't get it to work. So I'm not sure why that's happening. And so unfortunately, you'll just have to make do with hearing my air conditioner making some background noise. Hopefully that's not an issue to anybody. Usually it goes away, but I can't figure out why it's not working today. So whatever. But anyways, we have other things to worry about today. We have other things to do. We're gonna do some animation. We're gonna do some tech support. We're gonna have some fun. What is this? 2 computers as a flex given RAM prices? Well, these computers pre-existed the RAM crisis. These were not built or bought in the last year. No, these have been here for a while. Thank goodness, because I did put a lot of RAM in these a while back, DDR4, but glad I don't have to do it now. Hey Linus, how you doing? Yeah, I had an old system that had a pretty good amount of RAM in it. Like, not crazy, but still like a lot of RAM. And I was like, I want to get more RAM, but I had filled, I basically, I had a bunch of sticks of RAM in a computer that the stick sizes, I forget what they were. They were solid sticks of RAM, but whatever it was, I was maxed out on how many I could have in the system, but I needed more RAM than was in the system. So I had to replace each of the sticks with bigger capacity sticks. So my current computer has a lot of RAM in it actually now. And so I still have all the RAM from like the old version, DDR4, but it's in the closet, and I will definitely put it to use somehow. But I'm like, I can't part with it because it's crucial too. It's crucial DDR4 RAM, and that doesn't exist anymore. Anyways, hi everybody, welcome to Animation Tech Support, where I've been distracted with technical difficulties of my own, ironically. So, you know, we're off to a good start, but I luckily don't have to worry about computer tech support stuff in this call. We're gonna do animation tech support. I have Maya and Unreal and Blender all ready to go. Realistically, I have Maya and Unreal open. I don't have Blender open, but that's because Blender launches so fast that if I need it, I can just pop it open. I'm hoping people don't have that many Blender questions up because I specialize in Maya and Unreal at this point. Although, depends on your Blender question, I might be able to answer it too. Let me just pop out the chat so I can read it a little bit easier. And let me make sure that everything else is as it should be. Yeah, I think we're all good. I'm going to answer whatever questions are in the chat, but if anybody has some animation stuff they're dealing with, any problems to solve, or even if you've got project files you want me to open up, I am down to do that. We are here to help. When I say we, I mean me. And please hold while I pull up Discord. If you would like to share any project files, we're going to do that over Discord, and I'm going to just make a quick little channel in my server specifically for that. And I'm going to put it up in the Surwade content category, and I'm going to put it as Anim Tech Support. And I'm going to make it right there. Although I do need to make a new permission for this, which is that everybody is allowed to send messages and attach files. And you're allowed to add reactions. We're not going to do threads. Yeah. Save changes. Cool. So, give me 1 second. I will show my screen. Somehow. How am I doing that today? How am I handling that? I'm going to put this over here. Yeah, okay. Oh, I have buttons. Let's see. Basecam. Nope, these are all the wrong scenes. Man, I am not equipped for live streaming today. Let me just do my best here. Screen mix. Hey. Okay. If anybody wants to share any project files, you totally can. Join my server. I think there's a link in the description. There should be. If there's not, let me know. I'll throw it in there, but there should be by default. And in my server, you might have to like click. If you haven't joined it yet, you might have to like click the rules, and it might have you on like a 10-minute cooldown to verify you're a real person and not a bot. So you might have to wait a little bit. But as soon as you get access to all the channels in the Surwade content area, you should see Anim Tech Support, and you are free to roam about the cabin. Feel free to drop some files if you want. You don't have to, but if you intend to share any project files, let me just throw this out here. Maya artists, if you want to share any Maya project files, here's the thing. I have to have the rig that you're working with in order to open your scene, because typically you're going to be referencing your characters. And so if you want me to open your scene, I have to have access to the characters. If it's a free character that I probably have, or if it's an M rig or a pro rigs or something, I've got all those. If it's not a rig that I have access to, or a version of the rig that I don't have or something, you have two options. You can either go to your reference editor and you can convert your references to imported characters, which I do not recommend. I'm just pointing out that you can do it. It's a good like temporary way to send me a file really quickly, but I wouldn't keep it that way. So you could, basically right click on any reference character, and then you would do, where is it? You would do somewhere in here, you can like swap it to imported. That is an option. The better option is typically to, what do you call it? It's archive scene. You would archive the scene, and you might want to go through the options here. No, you don't need to do the options. But if you archive a scene in Maya, what that'll do is it'll go and it'll package anything external that is needed for the project to work into its own little project, and then you can share that zip file. So that is a way to do it. So Maya Artist, you can either share just a Maya file if you think I have the rig, or you can like zip it up, send it to me that way. Unreal Artist, you're gonna have to zip up your entire project folder or just ask questions because it's a little bit more involved. And if you, for any reason, are working with a file that you can't share publicly, or if you have rigs that you can't share publicly, but you want me to be able to open the file, you can just DM it to me, and that's fine too. But I'm going to primarily watch the Discord channel. So, but if it's a sensitive project, then I can open it where people can't access the downloads. So we're trying a new thing. I think long term I'm going to do something different for project file sharing, and we'll probably do it ahead of time anyways, but we're just trying things today. Now, I've been talking a lot. I see questions. Let's answer some questions. So let me pull these up here. All right, I've seen this question pop up a couple times. Professor Muhammad, what you got for me? How can a fresher get a job for 3D character animator graduated from Animation Mentor? How can a fresher get a job for 3D character animator? I mean, same way as anybody. If you are new to the industry and you want a job, you have to have a good demo reel, and then you have to apply to stuff. Your best bet is going to be either smaller studios or internships. That's the word I'm looking for. Internships, apprentices, or apprenticeships, some kind of trainee program. That's going to be your, that's designed for sort of that entry level feeding system. There aren't a ton of those opportunities, but there are, there's a good number of them. There's not as many as we'd like, but there are some. But the most important thing is to focus on making sure your reel is actually really good and not worrying so much about the application process. That is one of the biggest mistakes I see people make all the time. It's something that I did when I was a student and getting out of student era was, you're so focused on getting a job that you're not actually spending any time getting good at animation. So if you're having a hard time getting a job, it's probably because you're focused on applying and not focused on animating. Hey Nick, how you doing? Good to see you, man. How you been? Oh, by the way, I was up all night last night, so I haven't slept yet. It's been a long day. Just in case at any point I lose my train of thought, that's probably why. Also try to fix my camera angle a little bit so I don't look so short on camera. I like to pretend that I'm tall. Hey Peter. I'd like to animate a rock monster going from little rocks into a form. Any suggestions? I presume I just break all the bones on the floor and then pull them together over time, but animations aren't my forte. A rock monster going from little rocks into a form. I do think it'll be easier to start with the finished form and then deconstruct it. Yeah. Zoom forward in your timeline, build the build the rock monster, and then like work backwards, at least to give yourself some kind of a starting position. Or not even a starting position. It's more of like, so you know where you're headed. You can still like animate forward. I don't know if I would animate backwards necessarily. I guess you could. Probably wouldn't though. You'd probably want to animate like the direction that you want it to happen, but it's good to know where things need to be. That way you can sort of like jump forward to look at your reference of like, where am I going? Great, let me go back and try to get there. Also, Tween Machine is going to be your friend because that's going to help you get closer and closer to where you want to be. That sounds hard, though. That's a tricky one. If animations aren't your thing, that sounds like a large first project. Power to you, but you definitely didn't make it easy on yourself. Looking forward to seeing you at Unreal Fest. Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited for Unreal Fest. I'm so prepared. Actually, can we talk about Unreal Fest for a second? Who's going to Unreal Fest? Anybody here going to Unreal Fest? The Unreal Engine conference. It's this month. It's in like 2 weeks or something. Yeah, I think it's in 2 weeks. I will be actually. Let me see if I can show you. How do I do this again? Hang on. Let me share my screen. Whoop. Unreal Fest, yay! Unreal Fest. If you search for me, there's my lab. Animation workflows. I think I'm like the first lab of the conference, which is cool. I think there's a couple happening all simultaneously, but in that first block of time, I'm in that first block. But yeah, I have a 1 hour lab at Unreal Fest, which I think is already like fully booked and sold out, but you can always like, you know, see if there's standing room or see if somebody drops out. Usually people drop out of labs, so you might sneak a spot. I'm also thinking about recording this and making it like a YouTube video. Just, you know, posting this demo as a YouTube video. So if anybody's like, oh, I wish I could go, I might have that for you. Anyway, so that's cool. I've got some fun Unreal stuff to show. Some really, really cool. By the way, actually, I'll just show you guys really quick. I have Unreal open. Also, Nick, yes, it is a Zelda glider. You are the first person. You are actually the first person to notice and call it out. That is my rug. It is a Zelda glider rug. I got it from the Nintendo store in Japan. I was out in Singapore last year for a virtual production project, and so I stopped in Japan on my way back, and I went to the Nintendo store, and they had some fun Tears of the Kingdom merch. Good eye. Okay. I just want to show something really fast. For those who have been around long enough to hear me talk about DreamWorks at some point in my career, which I've done many times, you probably heard me talk about Primo, DreamWorks' proprietary animation software. One of the best things about the experience of using Primo at DreamWorks or Presto at Pixar, or now at Disney, I believe, is something called direct mesh control, where you can just grab the rig, like the character. You don't have to grab controls. Because usually, where is it? Because usually you've got, you know, when you have a character, they have all their controls, as we're used to in animation, right? And if you want to grab the torso, you got to grab one of these things. You got to spin it. Unreal 5.8 just dropped with some new features like direct mesh control. We can just grab this sucker and move them around. Very fancy. This is I made this version of the rig last night for a demo, so it's not actually super great. Like there's a bunch of extra little things in here selectable, but look, instead of having a zillion finger controls, I can just grab the fingers. Isn't that nice? Anyways, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you know, check out the Unreal course that I'm doing next month. Summer of Unreal, it's back. We've got some really cool stuff. Links in the description. So, anyway, where was I going with that? What was I doing? I was answering questions. Oh, wrong button. I just realized, could you hear me when I switched scenes? Did it mess up my audio? It was fine, right? It just clicked that might have messed up my audio when I switched scenes. Hopefully not. You can hear me? Okay, good. Whoa. I didn't see any, like, we can't hear you. So I was hoping nothing went wrong. Thank goodness. Okay. Let me go back up to the chat. What am I missing? Anyway, yes, if you're going to Unreal Fest, come say hi. Very excited to hang out and do Unreal Fest things. Any planned, or is it more of a when you feel like you have the time for it type of thing? Whatever it is. Wait, what? Oh, sorry, you had a first one. Not a tech-related question. The second live in the last 2 weeks, so I wondered if you were going back to starting regular streams. I want to stream more regularly, but I haven't like committed to doing it on a certain cadence or anything, but I want to get back into it. I miss streaming. I want to like, I'm trying some stuff right now, but I'm just kind of testing the waters. I would like to make it a consistent thing. My hope is that this style of stream is something people enjoy, something that you guys like, something that works with my schedule, and I can start doing like a weekly or every other week, probably every other week, I don't know. I'd like to do like an every other week animation tech support thing where we do like animation help consistently. I'd also like to do an Unreal tech support because I like helping with Unreal projects. It's a lot of fun, but it's like a whole different thing usually than animation. So, I mean, I don't really expect that's going to take off because I don't have that much Unreal content on my channel that people would expect it. I do a lot of Unreal help in general, but not on YouTube. More consulting work. Anyway. Maya versus Cascadeur. I still haven't played with Cascadeur. I mean, Maya gives you full control. Cascadeur's not full control. So, you know, Maya's going to win between the two because you can do whatever you want with Maya. You can't quite do whatever you want with Cascadeur. It's sort of, you know, inferring. But it seems cool. I need to play with it. I keep meaning to. Hi, Sword. Can you create some end dynamics, end cloth, end hair, and particles tutorials for Maya animators? Have I not done that? No, I haven't. Well, yes and no. I believe I have done end cloth, and if I haven't, that's in my Maya workshop. But I can look at end cloth stuff. I don't use end hair, and I don't use end particles. Those are old and they're bad, in my opinion. If you want to do hair in Maya, use XGen, not end hair. And if you want to do particles, just, I mean, yeah, you can do particles in Maya, but bleh. I don't do particles in Blender. I don't do particles in Maya. I do particles in Houdini. I don't do a lot of particles, but I do particles in Houdini if I have a real need for particles. Embergen, super cool, real time, and Unreal Niagara. Usually there's a way to get by in Maya without needing to use particles. But end dynamics are kind of hit and miss, because if you were going to do particles in Maya, you'd use Bifrost. Is it common to pose a character which has an IK or an FK rig? I know very little about rig and animation. I tried to pose a character for a full day with just an FK rig and failed miserably. I typically use FK rigs to pose all my characters. When you're just starting out, IK rigs are easier, but yes, FK rigs are very normal and it takes a little bit to get the hang of it, but it's absolutely a normal thing. It just depends on your workflow. But yes, 100% possible. And if that's something you struggle with, I would recommend, I don't mean to keep plugging these, but I kind of have to. If anybody's, wrong button again. I gotta get rid of that button. There we go. If anybody is struggling with any animation stuff, you should join Animation Summer Camp. Woo! It's a new thing. I just made all these websites this last weekend. I stayed up for like 2 nights straight making these websites, so, you know, please appreciate my hard work relearning HTML after 20 years. Anyways, if you're interested in learning some more animation stuff, taking some actual animation classes, I guess I'll let me go through this really fast because this is really relevant. Starting next month, I'm going to be teaching 2 animation classes. So technically, I'll do this. I'm teaching 3 types of classes this summer. Animation Summer Camp, the Summer of Unreal, and a new Maya for Animators workshop. The new Maya for Animators workshop is basically everything in Maya that you'd ever want to need for animation. The last time we did this workshop was Maya 2023. We're now up to Maya 2027, so it's time to refresh it with some new stuff. So if you're looking to master Maya, well, this is the best workshop ever. And I cover more than any other online animation program, period. To the point that some of the schools were at one point interested in buying this curriculum, and I kept it for myself because I like teaching it. So if you're interested in learning Maya, that is the best way to do it, in my opinion. I also have the Unreal classes, which I mentioned. There is a character animation class for 2 weeks, and then a cinematics workflows in 2 weeks. They're meant to go together, but you can take them separately if you like only want one or the other thing, but they are designed to link together. But they're modular, so you have options. That's the new thing I've been doing with my classes, is trying to give you options so that if you are on a budget, there's still a way for you to learn stuff, and you can kind of choose how in-depth you want to go. Which brings us to Animation Summer Camp, the fun one. I am teaching 2 animation classes this summer. We are doing Advanced Body Mechanics. Finally, long awaited. Everyone's been asking for this for a while. And so we're doing Animation Body Mechanics. Or animation, Advanced Body Mechanics. And then we are also doing Acting and Performance, which is very exciting. It'll be the first time I've officially taught this class as like a formal thing. I've taught it before. I had some of this information in other classes that I taught at some universities because I got invited to teach at some universities, animation stuff, but this will be my first time teaching it online with, or like independently in this way. And so these are each 5-week classes, and you have the option to do assignments and get feedback, or for a little bit less price-wise, you can do spectator mode, which is if you just want to, like, you know, you still participate fully. You still get to go to all the classes. You still get to ask questions. You're still there for all the same information. It's just, and you're still encouraged to do the assignments, but this one does not include feedback, like instructor feedback. This one does. Takes more time. But you can still watch other people's feedback. But if you're like, hey, I'm not going to have time for the assignments, then hey, do this. But if you're like, no, I want the practice, I want to get the feedback on my assignments, then here you go. But anyways, you can join one of these classes, you can join both of these classes, you can do spectator mode for one and full, you know, feedback for the other, up to you. But it's July for one class and August for the second class. So if you're interested in these, all the links are below. But I highly recommend checking these out. And if you've never taken a class with me before, I haven't set it up yet, but I am also planning on doing, right before this kicks off, I'm planning on doing like a 1-day like free class thing. Sort of as a, I mean, everybody in the Animation Summer Camp is going to have access to it in general because I need to make sure we're all up to speed to a certain baseline to be ready to jump into Advanced Body Mechanics. So I'm going to do like a introduction to some stuff day, and that day will be available for anybody to join just to try my classes and see what you think. And if you're like, wow, actually I really like this, then you can join the actual class as well. But anyway, if you've taken my class, or if you haven't taken my class, there are probably people here who have, and you can ask them what they thought, because the best way to know if you're going to like something is through the feedback and reviews of other people, I think. All right, I've been talking a lot. Let me see. I'm back up in the chat. I'm looking for things I missed. I'm having a lot of trouble getting my character to do flips, backflips, spinning clicks, etc. It takes up a lot of my time, and I'd like to learn an easier way or method. Well, that I can show you. Here, let me just do a quick... Actually, let's do this. I'm going to... We're going to do this. I'm going to make a list. Where is my notepad? Is it notepad? Is that Notepad++? Yes, it is. Okay. We are going to keep a list of things that people want to see. Flips and spinning kicks. I'm also going to just pull up the chat so you guys can see where I'm at in the chat, because I tend to kind of be behind as I try to keep up with reading. So let's move these, let's flip these. So you can see where we're at. All right. All right, I am here. I always worry about upgrading to new versions of Maya when they come out. Maya 2025 wasn't ever usable for me due to constant crashing. I agree. I hated Maya 2025. In fact, I stayed in 2023 for years. Only recently did I get 2026 and 7. I usually go every other year. Not that I stick to that as a rule, but I just happen to usually do every other year. Because I did 2017 for a long time. And then I think yeah, it doesn't matter. I usually end up going every other year or so. Right now, I think I'm on 2026. I have 2023 open because it still has all my plugins and stuff. I think I have 2026 as my default, but I'm now converting to 2027, and I'm still developing an opinion on how I feel about it. But yeah, I always like to download it and see what's new and just see if it feels more stable. And if it doesn't, I go right back. And then I stay there for a long time. Where to put my shot in Discord? Discord. Where is my Discord? Discord. If you go to my server, you should see Anim Tech Support in the Sir Wade content area. And that's where you can put stuff. Here for the live. The follow along labs go so quick. I've literally never been able to sign up for one in the 5 years I've been to Unreal Fest. I always miss it. Been working with animating in UE5. I'm impressed with how much I can get done. Was wondering with root motion, is that just making sure root bone is the primary mover, or is that something more to it? Root motion is like a gameplay thing. Like, root motion is specifically referring to... Hang on, why is this not responding? Hello, Unreal. Wake up. Huh. That's weird. I'm frozen in Unreal. I might have to kill it and reopen. Well, I'll just point at it. So here on my screen... Yeah, here on my screen, you see the main hexagon shape on the bottom, right? That's the global. That's your main layout control to move and place your character. You don't animate with that. You just kind of put your character where they need to be. The square inside, is it the square? I believe it's the square. I don't think it's I think the arrow is the offset. I believe the square itself is the root control. The square is the root. So when you're animating in Maya, the root is usually referring, people are usually talking about the hips. When animators in Maya are working, you're usually talking, oh, your character's root, or their cog, or their, people usually call it the root. It's a weird thing. They call it different things. So in Maya, animators usually are referring, yeah, here we go. Now it's working again. In Maya, animators often refer to this body control, your hip control, your cog control as the root. That is not the case in Unreal. In Unreal, I'm sorry, is it this one? It is. I'm sorry, I got them wrong. It is the arrow. The arrow is your root control. And it's not something you animate because you can see that the character's not typically gonna like follow it or anything. But the root control is basically where the character's like motion data, like the character's speed of moving through the scene to be used in gameplay. That's where that goes. And so if you think about what you've probably heard of like games versus film, where in movies, your characters, you know, you physically take them and you move them around the scene. Usually not just the bottom half, but you move them around the scene. But in games, the idea is that you animate everything in place, right? That everything is a cycle. And, you know, characters run on a little treadmill here because it's ultimately the player that's going to steer the capsule. And so that's the idea, is in film and TV, the characters leave and they run around. But in games, they're supposed to be in a cycle. And that's because they run in place, but like where they're supposed to be for any given animation, that data is stored in the root. That's what that's for. The root contains that information. So if you have a character that's going to do like some kind of attack where they like run in a quick circle, jump in the air, take 2 steps forward, and then backflip backwards, like they actually like move around, that data is usually contained in the root. And it's sort of this mix of things where like they still are on a treadmill, but the data is in the root, and so it tells the capsule where it needs to go to do the animation properly. I hope that kind of makes sense. That is my understanding of root motion. It's like a different thing. But you don't like animate it. It's somewhere where, you know, your animation kind of ends up. That's true. That's a good way you could do the rock thing. Whoops. I'm clicking buttons. Where was I? I was wondering if there is physical animation input tools that are standard in big animation houses. Sliders, buttons, even full puppets, just to devices to keyframe faster. Oh, yeah, absolutely. At DreamWorks, we had X keys, which look like this. Yeah, at DreamWorks, we had X keys. Every animator had X keys at their desk. They're just programmable buttons. They have them on all kinds of sizes, and then people would print out or draw their own little buttons and then, you know, customize it. I don't think there's like a standard for what studios have. It just depends on like what the studio is up to. X keys are pretty common. And what's nice about them, actually, I guess here's a really important thing, is like on my desk, for example, I've got Stream Decks and I've got Space Mouse from 3D Connection, which I'll show you. Let me Google that really quick. 3D Connection. Space Mouse. Yeah, Space Mouse. I have one of these. These things are great. They have them as like these big, lots of buttons. They also have them as like just the mouse part, just like the joystick. These are great. I love these. Super cool for 3D camera stuff. But the thing is, a lot of tools require software. So like, you know, if you've ever seen a Stream Deck, which I'm sure you have, right? Stream Decks require software to function properly. So I can't just like grab my Stream Deck with all my Maya hotkeys, which I have set up in the past. I can't just take that and then go to another computer, plug it in, and keep working. I have to like reinstall the software. I got to import my profile. I got to like export it from the old computer, import it to the new computer. So if something happens to my computer, hopefully that was backed up, or that's going to be annoying. That's why we used X keys at DreamWorks, is because your settings of like what the buttons did, they were saved in the device. It was like onboard memory. So that is something you want to look into if you are like working from an office and then at home, or if you switch desks for any reason or things like that. Like that was a thing that happened in studios. And so, you know, if that is necessary to consider, then, you know, consider it. That you might need something with onboard memory. That's cool. An Arduino sensor. That's fancy. Weird to animate without seeing the controls. It takes some getting used to, but once you get used to it, my god, it's awesome. All right, I'm really far behind. Oh, thank you. I'm glad the websites look good. Blender 2. I do animate in Blender, but not as often. I do other stuff in Blender more than I animate. Is there a way to be kept informed about the free day class before the full class? Let's check that out. I had planned on having that ready before this live stream, and I just had enough technical difficulties keeping me busy that I did not get to make it. I guess, what would be the best way to do it? What would be the best way to get in the loop? I guess to make sure you're on the Discord server, because I'll probably post about it on Discord. I'll post about it on Discord, Patreon, Instagram stories, YouTube community posts. I mean, I'll put it everywhere. So hopefully you're just watching my stuff. Keep an eye on the website. Refresh it, you know, by the end of the weekend. Oh, I guess I should mention, I just launched all my classes this week, like all these new classes that I'm doing. I just announced them this week. And there is currently a 10% discount on all the new classes. But that only lasts through this weekend, because it's like the first week special, basically. So it's only lasting through the first weekend. So if you're like, hey, I think I want to join these classes, especially if you wanted to join more than one, you can save some money if you want to sign up like in the next couple of days. I would do it sooner than later so you don't forget, because it's a launch special. And if you're interested, basically you just go to sign up and then it'll ask you for a coupon code, and the coupon code is Picnic 10, because it's all summer stuff. It's like Maya, or Animation Summer Camp, Summer of Unreal, so it's Picnic 10. So if you're interested, save that. It'll work for a couple more days. I think it goes until Sunday. Should still work on Sunday. So it goes through the weekend. So if you're thinking about a class, you know, save some extra money there. I mean, if you don't want to save the money, that's okay. It works for me. But, you know, the option's there for you. I appreciate it either way. Hey, thanks, Linus. I take a long time to animate. Do you have any tips for speeding up my workflow? It really depends on what you do. Did you have the question earlier about the spinning kicks? No, that was somebody else. Tell me about your workflow, and maybe I can give you some tips. What is your workflow? How do you typically work? How do you approach a shot? Upload my shot on Discord. Okay, I'll check in a second. Any plans on making rigging tutorial for games specifically? Not really. I am not a rigging artist. I'm not a character TD. I don't feel qualified to make rigging tutorials, really. If you are interested in getting into rigging, you should do so with Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine rigging is so in demand. That is a skill. You will have work. You will get paid and you will have work. And there are so many learning resources right now that Unreal is just pumping out because they're trying to get more people to know how to do control rig rigging. And it is so powerful and it is so cool. So if you're interested in getting into rigging, you should look into Unreal Engine rigging, because there are opportunities for you there. They are just sitting there, waiting for you to claim them. Hi, how are you? What do you think about AI and how is it affecting the animation industry? Hit me with that right out the gateway, don't you? I don't really want to talk about it that much. I feel like I talked about it a ton in the last live stream, and it comes up every time I do a stream. The short answer is, when it first came on the scene, I was one of those people that was like, oh, technology. I could see it being a tool if implemented correctly, and that it was implemented very unethically and very poorly, and just everything about it was just like absolute garbage. And so at this point, I'm so fatigued and annoyed by AI and how it's been implemented and how it exists in the world today that is it a tool? Is there an opportunity? Sure, of course. Technology is always going to make things like more powerful and you can do more things. But at the same time, it's been rolled out in such a way that there's very little upside at this point. As a general blanket statement, it's definitely more bad than good in most cases. So unfortunately, that's where all the money is. And that's like, you have to involve AI in everything if you want to make any money, which is very frustrating. You know. So, yeah, whatever. I'm not a huge fan of it. I see the potential in it, but I also see the poor execution of it. So, Unreal rigging, yes. Animators. I see animators use blend shape and animation. Isn't that rigging stuff? Kind of. It depends. It depends on how you use it. Rigs can be made of blend shapes, but also you can use blend shapes to do really stylistic animation stuff, which is something I cover in my classes. That is, if you're interested in blend shapes and like cartoony animation, that is something that I teach, and that's like too long of a thing to just do right at this moment. But in fact, I think I'm covering that in my Maya for Animators workshop for sure. And I think I'm covering it in my performance and acting class as well, if you're interested. But yes, blend shapes can be rigging when used to create rigs, but they can also be used as more like sculpting for shot-based work. So it's kind of both. Animation walkthrough is half done. Oh, cool. I'm glad. Any tips you can share for stylized animation besides blend shapes? Stylized animation. I mean, the best tip I have for you is just like go really big. You can always pull back. Like that's the best tip for stylized, is just always go bigger. Go way bigger than you think you're gonna go, because it's so much easier to scale it down, and often you don't need to because it wasn't far enough. It's hard to overpush sometimes. Oh, wow. I'm not going to say your name out loud, but thank you for the $5. How much? Well, hold on. I'm sorry. You have to wait your turn. I have to go in order, or I'll miss these. Thank you for this. I'll read it in just a second. Normally, I don't have the chat on screen while I'm doing this. You guys can see what I'm seeing, but at this point, I just figured I'll just keep it on screen. And then I have stuff in Discord to look at. I try to be optimistic at first too. Now I'm yeah. I feel it. Hi, newbie here. Any tips on animating tails? Tails suck. I'm not gonna even like play. Tails are rough. I understand. The best thing I can recommend for you. Let me give you a quick. Well, here, hang on. Actually, let me add that to my list, and then I'll go through it. So. Animating tails. I'm also going to put something on there for stylized animation because someone asked for that. Making a list here so I can keep organized. How much mocap editing versus regular animating work is there in the game industry? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. How much mocap editing versus regular animating work? It depends, because like not all studios use motion capture, but then some studios use exclusively motion capture. It really depends. I don't know if there is like just like an answer to that. Both are very abundant. ideally you know how to do each one, because then you're more versatile as an artist. But I don't know what the skew would be. I would almost assume, it's hard to say. I was going to say that I would almost assume there's more keyframe work, like non-motion capture, just because not everybody has a suit. Like, not everybody has motion capture tools. But at the same time, there's so many AI tools now, and there are a lot of motion libraries, that there's also a lot of mocap floating around. But a lot of people don't even edit it. They just leave it raw. I don't know. Hard to say. My advice, though, in that case would be get good at both if you can. That's where you should aim for. Know how to work with both. This is a bit subjective, but can every shot use the layered workflow? I worry my more action shots would benefit more from post to post. That's a good question. I think in general, yeah, every shot can use any workflow, but some shots definitely are served more from like specific workflows. More than anything, it's how you work. Like, most animators can apply their own sort of preferred workflows to whatever shot. But the thing is, like, usually you do have to adapt your workflow to the shot that you're working on. And so in that way, yeah, there are some shots that are better served doing it a certain, direction. But I mean, at the same time, you also can do any shot in other ways. So yeah, I hope that's an answer enough for you. But if you feel like a shot would be better going pose to pose, then like try to work some kind of pose to pose component into your layered workflow. That's how I would approach it. If there's something that you feel like is missing, try to work that piece into the workflow that's already working for you, rather than like abandoning it and try to do something totally different. Because if you're not good at that workflow, then you're going to struggle on the shot. But if you can sort of maybe put in some tentpole poses or something along your layered flow, like, that might be worth looking into. Yeah, follow through is for sure the principle to know for the tail animation. What type of animation do you like making the most? Body dynamics or expressions? I like facial animation. Facial animation and lip sync is my favorite. Hands down. I like that stuff the most. I also really like the technical stuff. I like the technical things, constraints and all that. Let's see. Oh, I see someone put something in Discord, basically asking for feedback. This is not meant to be like a feedback call. This is meant to be more tech support. Like, I'm supposed to help with problems, like issues with your shot. But I guess I can see how you would think it. But it's meant to be like, hey, I'm stuck on this, or I'm struggling with this thing, or like this feels broken, or like why isn't this working? Like, if you've identified a problem, but you're having a hard time solving it, that's what I wanted this to be. Not so much like feedback. I will peek at it though. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but we can look at it, because why not? Ooh. Good stuff. I recognize that. I recognize this from Amazing Spider-Man. That's where he had this. Is this whole sequence from that movie? Because that I recognize from it. And that I obviously recognize from it. Nicely done, though. Well executed. Smooth camera. Easy to follow. Very fun. Nice work. It makes me suspicious. It makes me suspicious to be like, did you take that whole sequence straight from the movie? Maybe you didn't. Hopefully you didn't. But I recognize that move from the movie. And so it makes me... I recognize two of those moves from the movie. The Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. So it makes me wonder if I'm remembering two moves in the same sequence and it happens to be the same sequence, because you don't want to do that. But if you've sort of blended from different spots, then great. Let's see. Not all things from the movie? Good. Very good. All right, let me see what we got here. flips and spinning kicks, animating tails, stylus animation. I feel like I'm missing one. Was there another one that I'm... I guess not. All right. Well, until we have some tech, if anyone has any like tech support things, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. But this is a good question. So flips and spinning kicks. Let me grab assets, characters, mrigs. Let's grab. Let me see. Animating tail, stylus anim. Let's just do the mannequins. We don't need a full face character right this moment. So just super quick and dirty here. If our goal is to do a flip or a spinning kick of some kind, there's a bunch of different ways to approach it. But on a base level, is that person still here? Whoever asked the question, before I like jump into all this, who asked that question? I recognize the icon. This guy, right? Yeah. Are you still here? Oh, you're here. Oh, good. So basically, there's a number of ways you could do it. What I think is the hardest way is to just kind of use, like, okay, here's the... hearing sounds. Here's the hardest thing. The hardest thing would be to like use the regular posing like hip controller and to have the foot in IK and to be doing a kick. And if you're like, I'm doing a spinning kick, like if we think of what's the I forget the name of the in Street Fighter, the hurricane kick, right? So if you're doing like a hurricane kick, you're doing that, right? What would be the worst thing to do, in my opinion, is to like spin the body and then to like move the IK foot and then have to rotate the IK foot and have to like deal with that. Like, oh, nightmare. Nightmare, nightmare, nightmare. Do not, please, for the sake of all that is good in this world, don't put us through it. Don't do it. There are a couple ways that are better. First and like most simple thing you could do is you could technically, instead of using the IK controller, you could switch the leg to FK. And if you switch the leg to FK, then when you move the body, the leg will come, well actually I guess it depends on the world space. The leg might come with it, but again, here we are actually in world space. So I need to switch the foot to probably in this control space global. Yep. Switch it to hip space, I guess. Now, if I rotate, it comes with. That is one option. It's potentially a really good option. It just depends on like what else you're doing in the shot. But the other thing that I don't love about this is now I have to like rotate the body. Not only do I have to switch the leg from FK to IK, or IK to FK, but I also have to switch the space. But then I also have to worry about the space of the arms, because you'll notice that the arms aren't all coming along for the ride either. They eventually invert through the body too, right? The arms have the same problem, that they either need to be rotated constantly or they also need to switch spaces, and then same with the head, right? So I have now all these different controls that are getting left behind by the body. So if option A is to manually move everything constantly, and if option B is to switch into FK and then adjust world spaces or adjust parent spaces for things, that's also an option. What's the third option? Well, the third option, I guess, would be to use the offset control, the offset character control, which is something that a lot of people never like realize what this can do. So most rigs have some kind of main controller that you're not supposed to animate, right? Like we don't want to spin this. We don't want to do that. But there's often some kind of sub control, some kind of offset, body offset, character offset, sub control, whatever it's called. And this is like not the main one, but it is similar. Technically that could work as well, because that's an easy one to just go, which was this? Why? You know, this is an easy one to be like, to spin. And it does the bulk of the work, right? It does the bulk of the work. Now we still have to offset some animation stuff, but why is this good or bad? Well, it depends on, I guess, your pipeline a little bit. The bad thing about it is that it's a massive global control that applies to everything, right? So it just takes the whole body, and now I've got to basically go in here and I got to do a bunch of offsets for the stuff inside. That's a little bit annoying, but it's very clean on the plus side. You know, it's very simple to just have one thing to move, one spline to manage. And the other thing is it keeps all of the hip stuff clean. But depending on your pipeline and like games and root motion and that kind of thing, like that might screw you up to be spinning this thing around because it might be too big of a hierarchy adjustment. And if that's the case, then we have option 4, 5. What are we up to now? Whatever it is. I also can't read the chat. I'm going to move the chat back over here so I can see it. And so another thing you could do that does essentially the same thing, but you have a little bit more control over it, is to do a constraint, is to create a locator. So I'll make a little locator. And what's cool here, because here's the other thing. What if, for some reason, your character needs to spin, but they're not supposed to spin from, like, the center here? Because, like, here in this case, we're not actually spinning from, like, the foot. The foot is sliding all around. What if we needed to slide, like, right on the heel of the foot? Or the ball of the foot or something? Or what if we needed to, like, grab this character by their ankle and spin them? You know, like what if we're actually spinning from the ankle? Well, this isn't going to work. Well, what's great about the constraint is we can do the same thing, but we can put it somewhere else. So we can say, all right, I'm going to grab the entire character from the ankle, and the spinning kick for some reason is going to act like a drill. The character is going to like put their heel out like that, and they're going to like drill kick with their heel. I don't know. I'm just making fun stuff up. So this is now some kind of like, yeah, jump forward and heel spin. So what I'll do is, we do, in this case, still need to pick something to drive, which will be the locator. But we also need to pick, like, are we in FK? Are we in IK? Are we dealing with spaces? Like, how do we want to manage that? You still have all the same questions to answer, because we can keep things in IK, or we can switch things to FK. Like we can have IK, or we can switch things to FK, or we can literally like take this whole thing and just like constrain this for some reason. Like where you put the constraint matters and makes a difference, and it just kind of depends on what you want, which is, you know, I could dive way deeper into this, but I say like we don't have time for that here. If you want that deep stuff, join my classes. But as an example, I mean, let's say that I want to do, I mean, heck, let's put it on the offset. Let's put it on the same control. Let's just go, we'll just do a raw constraint. And so now I can say, all right, let's have this locator. So instead of taking this thing and going spin, 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 now I want to say it's a drill kick, right? Now we can spin from the foot. Or go grab him by the ankle and go, whoa, 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 so long, Bowser, right? So you can do the spin from a specific spot in a specific direction, with a specific control that now also leaves your main controls free and clear to do whatever they need to do. And you just have to kind of like key on this constraint when you need to use it. You do what you need to do with it, and then you key out of it and you bookend it. That way it has like clear bounds of when it's in use and not. And that way you know, like, hey, before I was using it, all is well, I didn't change anything, and when I'm done with it, we move on from it. And typically that's the best way to do it, is to sort of have like, this is when it's active, and don't pollute the rest of your curves. You don't want to suddenly be like, all right, great, now I can use this to like animate, and he's gonna like step down on this foot, and now I'm gonna have like the foot roll down on the floor. Like, you do not want to now be using this to animate the character. I mean, you could, but now you're just like really overcomplicating your rig. Don't do that. So you would create it and set it up for a specific purpose, like specifically, I want to spin from this spot and like move them around. I might even still like move the character elsewhere and do the spinning here. It just depends. I mean, that's a bad example, but it just, just really depends. So that's a bunch of different things you could do for spinning kicks. And that's not even all the things you could do for spinning kicks. There's so many options, but those are typically your go-to selections. Hopefully that was helpful. Let's see. Is it frowned upon using a rig from a game in your demo role? Not necessarily. If you're talking about like a character that exists already, like Kratos or what are the other, Zelda, Link, right? I wouldn't say it's frowned upon, but you are putting yourself in direct competition with the animators who have animated the real version of those characters. Your rig is going to look worse. Your animation's probably going to look worse. And people will notice because we're used to seeing those characters look good. And if you don't match that, we're going to tell. So it's not a bad thing, but if you do pick, it's the same reason why I don't recommend anyone really animates with like the Buzz and Woody rig or like the knockoff Arcane characters rigs that exist out there. Like, maybe just don't for your demo reel, because they're just not going to look as good as we're used to them looking, which just makes your animation look worse. Whereas if you had just like random characters that just exist online, we're not going to be so harsh. Someone asked how to do animation with blend shapes. That's true. I'll write it down. I don't know if I want to get into that one right now. Let's see. Just want to hop in and say thank you for recommending. Oh, nice. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I now recommend my own animation basics class, but I'm glad you're enjoying your class. That's great. All right. Okay. Yeah, as a side note, if anybody is ever like, if anybody knows anybody who's like just starting out with animation, I have an animation basics class. It is less expensive than most of the other options out there. And it has a different curriculum, and I stand by it. I think it's good. So, just in case. You can always take a more expensive class later. Start with something less expensive. See what you think. All right. I'm working on some new classes, by the way. So if you're like, that's not what I want something else. I've got some new stuff coming. I'm hoping to launch some stuff at Lightbox. Oh, by the way, it's now after July. What is it? June? It's after May 27th. That's the date I'm thinking of. I'm allowed to announce now I'll be at Lightbox. Again, if anyone came to Lightbox last year, you might have seen the cool stuff we were doing. We had a lot going on last year. We had a booth, we gave talks, we had a party. I threw a whole animation after party event. And we will be, I'm not doing any talks this year, but I will have a booth. It'll be bigger than last year, more stuff going on. And we will be, I have no confirmed details yet, but we will be doing another animation after party, I think. So if you're coming to Lightbox, get ready for fun stuff. All right, what was I doing? What's next? Flips and spinning kicks. Done. Animating tails. Ah, yes. I was gonna show you. Oh, where am I gonna go? Pendulum. I wanted to do this one. Is it this one? What's my most recent? This one. So the thing with the tail, I know this is not a tail. I mean, kind of is, but kind of not. For tail animation, because tail animations suck. First of all, if you are doing, let me do this. Let me do a quick screenshot so I can draw on it. If you are doing an animation with one of those rigs that has one of these tails, right? Where it's like big and poofy. Like maybe it looks like this as a base, right? It's like that shape. Maybe don't. This is the worst. We hate this. We hate this. We hate this. The reason we hate this is because of the shape of the tail. The shape of the tail just causes weird shapes to exist very, very easily. Like if you had like a monkey tail, that's totally different. You'd end up with a lot more controls, but you have a lot more control. You have a lot more ability to shape this the way you want. Versus with this like squirrel tail thing, it kinks up like a lot. It's so easy to get like unappealing, weird kinked shapes in the tail when you try to like bend it certain ways. It's a huge pain in the butt. I recommend avoiding it when possible, but sometimes it's just what it is. So some of the tips I have for working with something like that, here are some things to remember. Anytime you have a tail or a pendulum or things like that, your topmost joints, the ones towards the base or the butt or whatever, like if this was a tail, right, and this was like the back of our squirrel or something, you know, and then this is the rest, you know, I could go like this and go like this, and that's like our, actually I'm going to do this differently. Yeah, whatever. I mean, this is not a tail, so I don't really feel that obligated to make this look. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to keep it vertical. Makes more sense. Oh, you know what? I forgot the biggest feature of this rig. This is my rig, by the way. It never really got finished, but whatever. I just realized it extends. That was its big thing. I forgot. Here's the thing. When you are dealing with some kind of pendulum, something to keep in mind. Try to imagine the weight of each individual section, right? Here they're segments, but if they weren't segments, here's another thing this rig does that's very, very cool. Let's say it's a chain, right? Let's say it's a chain, and at the bottom we've got this ball with spikes, right? We got some fun stuff. By the way, if you sign up for my animation basics class, you get this rig. All right, let's say we have this. Here's the thing I want to draw attention to. If I want to move this top chain, or I want to move one of these bottom ones, my question is, which control is experiencing the most weight, right? Like, where do I have to worry about the most weight along this chain? Feel free to shout your answers out. It's not a trick question. Should be pretty straightforward. Where is the most weight that I have to deal with? The correct answer is 3, 2, 1. At the top. I got to worry about the most weight at the top because it holds the weight of the entire chain length below it and the big ball at the bottom. The bottommost control is literally just the ball, right? It only has to worry about the ball. It doesn't have to think about any of the weight of the chain because chains are heavy. And so the thing is, if I were like swinging this thing way over here, that is a ton of weight. And the weight of this entire chain and the ball, what does all that weight want to do? That weight wants to go down. It wants to point straight down as fast as possible. So the topmost section of any pendulum is going to resist moving a ton because it has to hold all that weight. It is going to try to point downwards, the strongest of any other part of the chain or of the tail. So my point is, the bottommost areas that have less weight to deal with are much more flexible because they do not have as much weight dragging them straight down constantly. So you are going to get a difference. You cannot just say, I'm going to have this go like that. Like, you can't just spin the thing all together and then go like this. Like, you can't just go, you know, like, oh yes, it's going to swing this way and then this way and it's going to settle back over here eventually. Like, like, you can't just do that. First of all, that looks terrible, but like, you can't just use a consistent bend amount. What you want, your topmost area to bend a bit, however much. I mean, you might want it to bend a lot, but you want it to bend a bit. And then you want, you know, whatever's below it to bend more, right? Like, this is I go like this. Like a subtle bend, a little bit more, even more than that, and then the very bottom, right? Like, this is a little insane, but whatever. The most curvy part is going to be towards the end, towards the tip. Now, do you have to go that crazy? No, of course not. And then the other thing is, it shouldn't happen on the same frame. That's also very important. These are offset, right? Because it's a pendulum, we want there to be offset on the timing. So you're not going to get your like extreme bend poses all lining up here on frame 15. It's just not going to happen. It looks really bad. It looks really mechanical and awful to do it that way. And so, what you'll end up with is you'll probably end up with, you know, whatever your maximum angle is here. Let's call this negative 20 degrees. Let's say negative 20 is my maximum here. And then I'll go a few frames later and I'll come over here to positive 18, right? Whoosh. Whoosh, right? Somewhere in here, I'm gonna shrink this down just so I can deal with less controls. Excuse me. I'll just do 2. Somewhere in here, I'm gonna have this, and I'm gonna have it go beyond 20. If 20 was the maximum of the one above it, I want the maximum of one of the lower ones to be more than that, more than 20, because it has less weight to pull down on it. So I'm going to pump it up to 30, just because I'm already basically there, minus 30. But it's got to be offset. And I don't really want it to like move backwards, so I gotta figure that out. Yeah. I'll go negative 40 just for the sake of making sure it's gonna do what I want it to do. Yeah, so if I say, all right, this was at negative 20, and then it ends up like positive 18, and then over here, it gets back to positive, negative, I don't know, 15 or something. Sure. Boom, boom. There. And then this is going to be negative 30 something, I don't know. And then 4, so around here, this is going to be over here somewhere. I don't know. I'm just making up numbers. All right. The most important thing is I'm trying to get at is that I want to make sure that not only is there a time offset between the top, bottom, like, and so on, but there is a value offset that you have more bend happening down through the chain because there's less weight pulling down, which means it has more flexibility to bend from side to side. There should be more lateral motion. And that time offset mixed with that value like increase down the chain is going to give you the whip motion. It's going to give you the feeling of a tail or a whip or some kind of fun like pendulum thing. And so if the question was originally animating tails, that will apply as well with a character jumping around. You'll start by animating the base, but obviously you have to offset what's happening down the tail. But keep in mind that the end of the tail is going to be the most like wiggly part. The base of the tail has more structure. It has more bone density. It has more muscle connected to it. And so it's a little bit more guided based on the action of the body. And the tip of the tail has to kind of just follow offset with more flair whatever was happening previously on a higher up section of the tail. And so that is my advice when it comes to animating tails. Hopefully that was helpful. That is like the best thing for me anyways to keep in mind with those types of shots, to not struggle as much, because I never enjoyed those types of shots. Oh, thanks a lot for the feedback. It means the world. Can't believe you actually checked it out and commented it. Oh no, I got you. Thanks for sending it in. Trying to go back to Animation Collaborative. Hey, nice. A great place to learn. Do your classes have payment plans? I don't think I have them turned on right now. I have the option to turn on Klarna and Affinity, I think they are. But I don't have them turned on just because... Why was there was a reason. Oh, well, one reason is somebody once like signed up for it and then like didn't do the payments on the classes, and that was kind of a bummer. I think that was the main reason I didn't do it again. That's the only time I ever had anyone do it. Also, I just don't really, I've never used those tools, so I've never really known how they work, so I just haven't turned them on. Technically, I could also set classes up as some kind of subscription thing, but that also doesn't seem super necessary. And that's different anyway. It's more of like a membership thing. I mean, I can if I need to. I am learning blocking, but I'm running into the issue where my animation looks clean, but it doesn't... Wait. I'm learning blocking, but I'm running into the issue where my animation looks clean, but it doesn't look complex. How would I add more detail to it without ruining it or making it look jittery? Excellent question. I have an answer for you, and that answer is one of my videos, specifically this one. You want this video. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste the link in the chat for you. You're going to watch this as your homework after this live stream. This 9-minute video, oh, it's only 9 minutes. That's a good video. It goes into the process of blocking plus, which is literally the process of when you are blocking, how do you get more detail and like good stuff to move forward. That is the topic of the video. How do you approach unusual things to animate? I mean, complex action scenes, monster locomotion, all that. How do you approach unusual things to animate? Complex scenes. Depends on the thing. How do you approach unusual things? I mean, I approach complex action shots usually by filming reference. That's super helpful to me, as having some kind of reference. And I find it easier to do like live action filmmaking, so I'll plan those types of shots by filming them for real and like figuring out what they will be through like reality. But for things like monster locomotion, there's a mix of like, you have to understand some like biology, like some animal stuff. Like there's a little bit of study that goes into that thing. Reference also is a good backup for that. But if you were looking at like dragons or I don't know, something that like there's not really reference for, then some people draw, like some people do drawing blocking, animation blocking, sketch blocking. That's the word I was looking for, sketch blocking. I'm not that talented with drawing, so I don't typically do it that way. I think reference is usually my go-to answer for complex stuff like that. The other thing I'll do, if you've got something unusual to animate, I will typically try some kind of unusual workflow. For example, if I had a fight scene right now and someone was like, you've got to animate a fight, I'm not very good at coming up with choreography. I struggle a bit. And so if somebody was like, you have to come up with a fight scene right this moment, and it's got to be awesome, and it's got to have, you know, good snappy timing and whatever else, I would probably, honestly, either like get some action figure type things or like little pencil erasers, like anything, just I would act it out with little toys, and I'd make sound effects, and I would record, potentially reference what I'm doing, but more importantly, I'd record the sound effects. Because those sound effects now become my blocking information. I'm going to drop that audio clip into the Maya timeline, and I'm going to match poses to those sound effects, to the little waveforms. And that's going to give me my timing for my shot. And whatever I was doing, I'm going to have a general sense of like who's winning in that moment, or like what's kind of happening. Because I kind of did something with like a circular motion here, and I was like, that was kind of the character like rolling around and spinning, and like, you know, I would do stuff like that. The answer to your question of like how do you animate complex stuff, the answer is you simplify. You find some way to simplify it and start small. That's the real answer. I find it simpler to do live action filmmaking. I find it simpler to make sound effects with my mouth. I find it simpler to animate cubes doing rough placement and spacing of whatever is supposed to happen in a more complex scene and figuring out the timing from there. That's usually the kind of answer to that question. I think there was another thing. Oh yeah, stylized animation. That was, somebody asked for a tip. What was a tip for stylized animation? I'm just going to open a pre-existing scene that I've got, and I will show you. To this one. Nope, that is motion capture. Oh, I know where to go. It is in, if I set my project to Expo Demo, do I not have? Oh, here it is. Expo Demo set. It's an old file. Examples. Oy, okay, hold on. Foxrig 02. This one. All right. There we go. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. Am I in my camera? Yes, I am. Oh, hold on, let me go ahead and playback cache. All right, so here's a fun little stylized trick for you. If you've seen this demo before, don't say what it is, because I've shown this a few times in classes and things. So if you know what this is, don't reveal the answer. Can anybody spot what is happening for stylistic stuff? Name anything you think, anything you see, anything you think you see. Unless you know the answer, then like let other people try. Name anything that you've got that's like, what am I doing for stylistic? This was a rig test. We were building this rig a couple years ago, and I had to do some rig wrecking. So this rig was, this rig at this stage was very unfinished, and I was still just trying to get some animation. So what do you got? Point out some stuff for me. And it is not AI. How dare you? This was back in 2022, I want to say, 2023. This is before AI was even a thing. How dare. I'm going to say that there are 1, 2, 3. I'm going to say there's 3 major things. All right, let's see what we got here. The hand smear is one of them. Smear frames are one, yes. Camera perspective, you got it. And basically the rest is, yeah, snappy timing is probably a good way to say it. The basically popping in objects. Here, I will show you guys, first of all, the smear frames. Easiest thing to spot, right? Hands kind of smearing a little bit there. A little bit there. A little bit of smears there, right? A little bit of smears on the hands. And then there's obviously a big one right here. Whoosh. Big old smear frames there. There's even like a full direction change. The hand is facing palm up and then the hand is facing palm down. Hidden through the same shape. So it's just... not supposed to notice, really. And then at the end, there's another smear there. And then somebody pointed out that the hand is very big here. And yes, the hand is much larger here. But it is not necessarily for the reason you might think. Somebody did get it. It is because the hand is stretched out towards the camera. So if we watch this in perspective, the third thing I was going to point out is that objects like pop into existence from nowhere. Like that picnic basket just goes, boop, pops in. But yeah, the hand does that. And yeah, it's kind of like the Encanto clip that everybody's seen photos of now. Classic animation perspective trick. The reason I did that was with this character, because of the lens I was using, if she just went, yeah, and like threw the hearts from the little basket at the end, it did not feel like she was throwing them at the camera. Like they didn't feel like they were coming towards us. They just felt like they were getting like thrown in general, because her hand just went, yeah, and it just felt like she was like tossing them. It didn't feel like it was forward. And to get that feeling of depth, the hand needed to feel like it came towards the screen. And to do that, I had to just like stretch it like crazy because I just had a really long focal length on the lens. So yeah, so there's some stylized tricks for you. Perspectives, smear frames, and sometimes you need objects to just show up. So that picnic basket will just kind of spawn from behind her. And there's like little fun stuff, right? Like as soon as the picnic basket comes out, it's got all this fun like extra overshoot on the basket lid stuff. And there's like a little detail here that like when she pulls the basket out, her fingers do this little grip thing. Like she kind of shifts her grip. Right there, see it? Little grip ship. What am I saying? Grip shift. Now at the end, her hand doesn't do anything. Her hand actually should probably have an extra grip there at the end, but I didn't do that at the time. Like I said, why stretch the hand out instead of scale the hand? You can do either. In this particular case, I think I tried scaling first, but it looked bad because the shape of the arm, if you look at like the shape of the mesh here, if you can see, it's kind of bumpy, right? It's kind of like the mesh itself has some texture that I did not like. And by scaling the hand, I did not have very good control at this because we were still building the rig at this point. So we didn't have all the controls we needed to like smooth that out nicely. And so scaling the hand scaled the silhouette in a really unappealing way. And so the only way to get the silhouette to look better was to stretch it so that it actually pulled all that geometry into a nicer shape. That is the main reason why I pulled it, was so that I could get the arm shape that I wanted. And you can tell how much like weirdness is happening with the textures off. Quite a bit with this character was hidden once we go into the way we had it shaded. Not like a lot, but enough that you don't really notice stuff on the first pass. Thank you. I think the hearts, if I remember right, the hearts were like, I did something weird. I think that was an experiment. I think I literally animated, what did I do? I remember something being weird about it. Like I animated one heart spinning. I think what I did, if I'm not mistaken, I think what I did to save time, like for some reason this was faster, I felt it was faster, is I modeled the hearts and I animated them spinning. Like I animated one heart, I animated it just spinning linear with like a loopable cycle. And then I exported that loop as a USD or something. And then I brought it back in as like a spinning asset. Like the asset itself was spinning. And then I could duplicate it a bunch of times and it would maintain its animation, because if you duplicate an object, it doesn't duplicate with its animation. And for some reason, I think it was faster to do a little export workaround and then bring them back in as like, you know, however many hearts that were just animating. And then I just copy pasted a ball bounce and then just changed the final path keyframe or something. Like it was something weird. At the very least, I tried that. I don't know if I stuck with it. Maybe I realized halfway through that process that like this wasn't actually any faster. Like that sounds likely. But I remember going through a thing of like, how can I do this as fast as possible? And just try to like basically procedurally do the hearts by doing it once and then applying the same animation to a bunch of things. I don't really remember. That was a long time ago. One more question. How do you make a character look very heavy? Well, to answer that, I do have another video for that. It is this one. Animating heavyweight. Realistically, this is not really about heavy characters so much as a character dealing with heavy objects. I am going to drop it here because it's still relevant. I also will recommend my body mechanics class that's coming up next month because that's going to be heavy character stuff. But to answer your question, how do you make a character look heavy? You slow them down, potentially. Make their... Not just make it take a while for them to start and stop, because that could be misinterpreted to just like make things slower, and it's not about making things slower necessarily. Make the characters' overshoots and settles take longer. In particular, like the settles need to take longer. A quick character, if you imagine like a squirrel, think of a squirrel running around. Squirrels are like quick, right? Yeah, momentum. Squirrels are quick. They can start and stop really quickly. They can accelerate and decelerate fast. They have very little overshoot and then settling that needs to happen because they don't have a lot of mass that has to like deal with the change in speed. But elephants, when they stop, it takes them a while to fully stop moving. You know what I mean? Like if you picture that, picture a squirrel that comes to a stop. They're quick. Now picture like an elephant or something that has to like come to a stop. There's a lot more settling that happens. So that's one of the big things, is just longer settling periods. That's my easiest tip for you to implement. So if you want more heavy, have more settle. If you had an animation of a character doing a side walk to the left, how would you change the animation to mirror the entire animation so to walk to the... Wait, hold on. If you had an animation of a character doing a side walk to the left, how would you change the animation to mirror the entire animation so to walk to the right? I think realistically, I would take the animation and I would shove it into Studio Library. Oh man, I have to reset Studio Library. I'm not doing this right now. I would take the animation, I'd save it in Studio Library, and then I'd flip it with the mirror button, and then I'd reapply it. Or I would use Animbot to do the same thing. I would copy the animation, and then I would paste it flipped. That is the easiest way to do it, is to use the tools. Blender also has features for that. Unreal also has features for that. I don't think Maya has a native feature, but with Animbot, anything is possible. Honestly, that is the... How would I change the animation? That's how I would do it. I wouldn't bother. If I had to do it like back and forth, like I wouldn't. Like, could I figure out a way to do it? Yes. Would I? No. At this point. Should people know how? Yeah, totally. But I'm not gonna think about it because it's too much work. I use Animbot. Oh my god, I didn't even think about that. I tried Animbot, but the mirror never worked right. If you're using Animbot and your mirror isn't working right, make sure you're doing a snapshot to begin with your rig. Let me show you how to do that. Set project, mentorship. Let me just pull up a rig really quick. Let's go assets, character, let's go mrigs, let's go mannequins. Actually, let's go, well, yeah, let's just do mannequins. Where am I? Why am I... What the heck? Oh, that was weird. Huh. What was I doing? Snapshot, right. So the thing is, Animbot is not designed to have mirroring and all that stuff just like work out of the box, because Animbot needs to learn your rig. So the best thing you can do is like grab your character and I think it's bundle snapshot. Yeah. Bundle snapshot will run all of the Animbot snapshots all at one time because there are several snapshots. So if I just type in snapshot, you can see that there are snapshot opposite controls, which is how it learns the mirrored rig naming convention. Default pose, mirror settings, all this other stuff. There's a bunch of snapshots. Now, you might actually want to customize this character a little bit before you do this, because it's going to learn your preferred mode for this character. So things like, do I like the character in IK or FK? Do I like the space switching settings? Things like that. So let's just assume I'm happy with it. I'm going to say bundle snapshot. And it's going to run all the snapshots. And now it should understand mirroring. Now it should work fine. So if I say right foot out, put your right foot out, and you shake it all about. Right? So if I say right foot out, and then the right knee's over here, and we're at an angle, and we have one foot here, and we have an arm over here, and we said 42. Whoops. Something 42. Hike. I don't know football. I don't know sports. I don't do sports. But say you got this pose and we go, great. Now flip it. It almost worked. It didn't do that arm correctly. Wonder why. Let me see what happens when I flip the arm. I think XCY, XCY. It's an interesting little thing. Usually there is a way to troubleshoot that. Oh yeah, that's not behaving as expected. So we should probably do a snapshot mirror settings. So if I go like this one more time and then I flip it, okay, yeah, they're inverted. That is fixable. So where do you go for that? You go to fix mirror settings. Fix mirror settings. Select the channels you want to fix mirror settings in the channel box. I think it's this one. Well, whatever. Let's just try this. There you go. I think I got it. I think that fixed it. I think that did it. I wish I had kept the pose to know if it was going to work better now. So let me just try really quick to leg here, this there, this there, this there. She was in like a squatting pose. This arm was down. Push the shoulder down. This arm was up. We'll push the shoulder up. We'll go ahead and do a little bit extra here. We didn't do all this before. Something, something sports, something, something ball. And there you go. Fixed. Boom. Animation tech support. Oh, wait, you know what? I didn't actually do it all correctly. There's still something wrong here. It was this. It was one of these rotation controls. I think it's the. I gotta go to gimbal mode. I think it's the Y. I don't know. I have to do more troubleshooting. Could be rotation order. Could be rig stuff. Am I actually live? Yes, I am. I just wasn't reading chat yet. I've actually never had that issue with the mirrored rig thing. I've never had that problem before. Like I said, I didn't sleep last night, so I'm very tired. I saw a question earlier. I lost it. But somewhere I saw a question that was like, advice for a 15-year-old animator. You probably got some in the chat. But my advice is, try lots of stuff. Have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously. You should be tasting as many things as possible, trying as many things as possible. Don't feel like you need to commit and be an animator and do all the animation things just right. Try all the different parts of animation. Try different jobs and career things. Try effects. Try storyboarding. Try camera operation. Try matte painting. Try layout. Look into crowds. Find stuff for CFX and like look for the little known departments that you might not be aware of. There's so much stuff to explore in this industry. If you're interested in it, explore as much of it as you can. Don't feel like you need to like lock it down. You should pursue being a generalist while you have the opportunity to try as many things as possible, because you might find that there's other stuff you like more. Animation is the most one of the more well-known, that like modeling. And they're not for everybody. Sometimes there's stuff that you just like more. You might be like, I want to be an animator, and then you burn out and you're like, I actually don't really like this that much. So, you know, have fun with it. Do fun stuff. And explore. Try things. I don't know what's going on. We are doing animation tech support. I'm answering questions. I'm just trying to be generally helpful. Also, we're over the time I had planned on committing to this, so I should probably wrap up pretty soon. Great to see you doing another session. Is there a way to clear the cache data for a 3D rig to have it be less laggy? I think I've done this before. Can't recall the process. When you refer to the cache data, are you referring to cache playback, like this button down here where you right click and hit flush cache? Because that's how you flush the cache. But I don't think that's what you're talking about. You can also clear like your history, like delete by history for your Maya file, but that's for like modeling and stuff. Clear the cache data for a 3D rig to be less laggy. The other thing you do if you're experiencing lag with the rig is look for some kind of quality setting. That is probably the number one thing that everyone should look for. If you're like, my rig is slow, look for some kind of quality adjustment. Like, does this character have... I don't think this character has any kind of proxy mode. Let me just check. I don't think so. I don't think this character has proxy mode. I don't think this character needs proxy mode. It's already so fast. But that's one thing. If you have a character that's like really heavy and dense and just like calculates really slowly, look for a way to lower the resolution of the mesh, or go all the way down to a proxy mode where it cuts it into sections and it's not, you know, a continuous mesh doing all this like blending of geometry. This rig is fast. It's not a problem, but that's the thing to look for. I do read comments. I go in order, so when new comments come in, I don't see them until I get there. I'm a little bit delayed. Why is Gamora? Let's see. What's a good learning path for realistic creature animation? Like, what should I practice? Study, draw anatomy? Yeah, I mean, anatomy's good, for sure. Realistic creature animation? Do master studies of real animals. That's my advice. If you want to get good at realistic creatures, do what's called a master study of real animals. What that means is go find videos of birds or lizards or dogs and then copy it. It's not like tracing, but it's kind of like tracing. Like, see if you can replicate what you see in the reference video. Like, not push, not exaggerate, not like, you know, do art stuff too. Like, nail it. Really capture it. Once you can capture it, then you can push it. It's hard because you have to find rigs that you have access to. So, you know, you could try 2D stuff. I mean, you could try 2D. But if you're like, but I want to do this bird and I don't have a bird rig, parent a bunch of cubes together. Like, literally just like make a bird out of cubes. I'm not going to be very good at this process, but if you're like, I need a bird, then like that might be the body of your bird, and this might be the head of your bird. And that might be like the top and bottom beak of your bird. I mean, realistically, try to do a little bit better. This is like a really bad duck. I mean, birds usually actually have a little bit more going on than this. Where's my modeling tools? There, now it's like a parrot or something. You know, there's probably like a top half of the torso. I'm not actually very good at making like proxy models for characters or whatever, but like you get the gist, right? Like if you're like, oh, I need like a neck or something. Like, I mean, like you should use reference to come up with like have a picture of a bird handy. I'm just doing this off of a memory of a bird. And like the wing is going to be a whole thing because like the wing is, I mean, the wing is complicated. Wing is not like some easy little thing. But you know, the wing is going to be various bone components. And I gotta change the pivot point, and there's feathers to deal with. Like, you do not want to actually do all of this. This is like way too much. This is not blocking. This is like polished bird, poorly made. But you get my point here. Is like you could make a bird. Please don't do this. This is way too much work. I'm doing this poorly. This should have been like. It really should have been like, this is a wing. You know, like there. Like, that's my bird wing. Don't make the whole wing. Do that. There's my wing. There's my other wing. And here's the beginning of my bird. Like this, at the very least, you could do something like that. Bad example, you get the gist. But that'll get you started, you know? Oops. So if you have no rig, then you have no choice. Make it work. Because if you can make this act like a bird, you did it. You know what I mean? Like, if this feels like a bird, you can get it to be like, wow, that really feels like a bird somehow. Then, like, you have accomplished something great. Because this shouldn't look like a bird, so you got to make it look like a bird. All right. I don't get what is working with a reference editor. Could you please explain it? The reference editor is a place for you to manage your references. So like, for example, I referenced this character, this mannequin. She is referenced in my scene. So if I go to File, Reference Editor, this is where I can see the character. I can unload her from the scene. I can reload her to the scene, pops back in, reapplies her animation. If I wanted to fully delete her, I could. I could remove her from the scene, which I'm not going to do. I could duplicate the reference, which will give me another copy of the character, which is the proper way. That if I was like, I need 2 of this character, then this totally works. Now I have 2 of the character. That's kind of the gist. There's like other stuff you can do, but those are the main things. Yeah, that's like the most important stuff right there. So if I was like, oh no, I don't need the second one anymore, I could unload her. I would unload, wrong one. If you decide you don't need one, you'd unload one, and then you would go and you would reference, remove reference. You could also replace with another character, but I'm just going to remove the character. I unload and then remove. Less chance of crashes. If you got time, try and make a proxy for that rig. It definitely pays off. I'm spoiled. My computer can handle this rig. This is a very nice, fast rig for me. But you are right. I know, time did fly by. If you're in Blender, you can use the knife tool and cut the geometry and set that up as a rig. That's true. Let's see. What's your real name? Sir. My first name is Sir. That is my name. How do you copy animation keys between rigs and controls? Well, you can just copy paste. Like you can copy paste anything from one equivalent channel to another. So if you had data, right? So if I take some rotation data, I can take a single curve and I can put it on any curve. I can put it on like the up and down, right? So there's the same animation curve on a rotate Y and a translate Y. Same animation, totally different spot. I could take this entire arm, 3 things, and I could put it on this arm. I think I missed I put them on the wrong keys, but whatever. Now they're on the same keys. Yeah, you just copy paste. Now, if you had like a whole shot you're trying to do, Animbot once again is very helpful. Studio Library is very helpful. There are some baking methods. It kind of depends on your situation. Oh. The rig details and things like that. Sweet. I think we're all kind of hitting the limit. I also need to wrap up. I got to do some other stuff today. And I'm very tired, like I said. Do we have something like that for Blender? Linking instead of appending? Yeah, exactly. That is what that's what that is. Linking is referencing. Appending is importing. Exactly the same thing. Maybe the difference is like the channel I'm pasting to. You definitely do want to like select either a key or a curve, right? Because it's either like a key or multiple keys or the whole curve or whatever. It'll paste to wherever your playhead is. So if I'm like, I want to grab this key and I'm going to put it on this curve, I do need to select this curve. And I got to go to wherever I'm going to go. Wherever my playhead is where the paste is going to happen, or the first frame of the paste is going to operate on. And you you must make sure, if you're copy pasting keys in Maya, you must make sure, very important, that you keep your mouse in the graph editor. You can like select and then, I can grab this curve and like copy and then like come over here. But like for the love of God, please keep your mouse in the graph editor when you hit Control V and paste. Do not let your mouse wander over here and then hit the hotkey. Bad things happen. Fastest way to corrupt your file. It's the stupidest thing ever. It's not guaranteed you'll corrupt every time, but bad things will happen every time. It breaks your undo cache. It often corrupts your file. It's bad news. Copy pasting is a very safe operation. Just keep your mouse here. This is also a big reason why I don't recommend having the graph editor like torn off. Dock it. Don't have any like gaps that you might slide through. Yes, it is based on mouse placement, and it's the worst. Everybody has that thing where you grab some animation and you copy it and you like move around and then you slide your mouse a little too far and you hit Control V and it repastes the entire rig back into the scene on top of itself, but not really. And then you can't undo it, and it's just a problem from that point on. It's just a mess. So yes, incremental saves, 100%. Now with that, if you enjoyed this stream, highly recommend checking out the links in the description for my classes coming up. If you're like, wow, I want to learn Maya, I've got a Maya class. If you're like, wow, I want to learn Unreal, because there was Unreal stuff at some point, got an Unreal class. Animation, actually two of them, animation and cinematics. But if you're like, wow, I just want to learn animation from this guy, he seems to know what he's talking about. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Come join Animation Summer Camp. Advanced Body Mechanics in July. Acting and Performance in August. You can take them back to back. You can take one or the other. It's totally up to you. You also can choose between, hey, I'm going to do the homework and I want feedback. Or I'm not going, or I might do the homework, but I don't need feedback and I'll save some money. It's cheaper if you don't do feedback, but if you want feedback, you totally can. You can spectate both classes. You could spectate or full feedback mix and match. There's a sale if you do the whole thing with all the feedback. And if you want to take any of these classes on my website, any of the new ones anyway, there's also a basics and fundamentals if you've not taken an animation class before and you're like, I need to get started. I need some rigs. I want to jump in. This works for Maya and Blender. Also technically works for Unreal too, but there's rigs for Maya and Blender. But for these new three, for the summer ones, if you're like, wow, I want to take those, then Picnic 10 is a code to give you, I think, 10% off of all these classes. So if you want to take multiple, works for all of them. If you want to take one, works for that. Totally up to you. So yeah, feel free to join the class. That code is good through this weekend. It expires at the end of this weekend because I just launched these classes this week. They kick off in about a month. And so for this first week, there's that sale. So if you want the sale price, then, today, tomorrow, recommend jumping on before you forget or before the code expires. All of my classes are recorded. So if you're like, wow, that's helpful stuff, I'm going to need that in 6 months when I forget. They're all recorded. The videos are edited into nice little chunks. You can search them. You can favorite them. You can do all kinds of fun stuff. And that applies to all of the classes. Body mechanics and acting, character animation and cinematics, Maya for animation. These are already here. They're already there for you to watch. And they're also recorded. So it's there for you should you want it. All right. I think that's it. I've got to go reply to a bunch of emails, and I got to mail something today. I hate going to the P.O. box, but I got to mail stuff. So thanks, everybody, for coming. Thanks for coming to Animation Tech Support. We'll do this again. I don't know when exactly. Probably not next week. I'm pretty busy next week, but likely the week after. Fingers crossed. Oh, wait. Week after might be Unreal Fest. Probably not then. We'll see. Try to do one more before the end of the month. But keep an eye out. And thanks a lot for being here. This was fun. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. This will be here if you want to rewatch any of the parts or something. I'm going to keep it on list. Or it'll be on the channel as a live video, so you can always go back and replay it. So have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you guys next time. All right. Bye, everybody. See you later. Oh, I have to reconfirm my password to get out of the stream. That's very dumb. It's like we can't. It has to verify me and everything. What an anticlimactic ending. It's like literally not letting me get to the stream dashboard. Rude. Yes, it's me. Yes, I'm on my phone. There we go. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a good weekend.